So much of what we experience in this world is echoes. We've been told that time runs from past to present to future, very linear, very neat. But that's not how it works. It actually runs from present to past to future. Because nothing is solid in this world. We think it is because it makes us more comfortable to see the infinite flux of existence. Is mind-boggling. It makes us a little crazy. Makes it hard to function. So our mind creates this wonderful linear structure to time, which is actually all happening all at once. There's just now, and everything's happening. But we structure it in our mind, and we look for a linear structure in order for us to make sense of things. So we turn one way and we say, okay, all this happened in the past, right now is the present, and then all this is going to happen in the future. And we tell our stories that way. We have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it helps us organize the world in a way in which we can function. But really, much of what we say exists in the present are really just echoes. They're echoes of patterns, and they're familiar, so then we recreate them. And there's even systems in place in our society that reinforces these echoes, like Thanksgiving, like Christmas, like any of the major holidays, any of the traditions that exist. They allow us to reinforce these echoes and manifest them. And every time we solidify one of these echoes, it goes and it changes the past. Like even in a neurological state, they figured out that how memory cells work. I can't quote you the exact study, but I'm sure you can do the research and find it if you really want to go down that road. But they have figured out, neurobiologists have figured out how memory cells work, is that every time you remember something, that file that stores the memory, those cells, are being overwritten with current information. So even when so every time you think about something that happened in the past, if you think of it like a computer, you're pulling that file up, it's open on the screen, but you're not seeing the original. You're seeing it through the filter of your current perception and through the filter, and it's already been changed by the filter of every time that you've thought about it in the past. So if you have a recurring memory that keeps coming up, or a story about your childhood that you tell a lot, it's been altered every single time you have remembered it by your current perception. So just from a neurobiological standpoint, the past is coming out of the present. It's not fixed. It's not a certain way. But it has power. Because how we hold the past, something that we consider the past, in our mind, emanates these echoes that then carry us into the future. And that creates our upcoming perception, our upcoming reality. So if your life is not how you want it to be, it's tough because we don't always get what we want. What's that Rolling Stones song? You don't always get what you want, but you get what you need. Because there's multiple layers of our being that is operating, and there's parts of us that know what needs to happen that we might not be privy to from our current state of consciousness. Now, that being said, we have some leeway in how we experience the present moment. You know, there are some experts in manifestation that will tell you just do this, this, and this, and you can create whatever world you want to live in. And maybe that's true. But will that lead you to peace? Will that lead you to freedom? Or will that lead you to just wanting to create more things? Because you create your perfect life, and then there's that hollowness, that emptiness, that wanting, what Buddha called unsatisfactoriness, dukkha. It's like, okay, I got everything I want, but I'm still not satisfied. And so we struggle again with the question of, well, what do I want? And then we go through the whole cycle again and again. And I think there's quite a number of people on the planet who have done that cycle for many, many lifetimes. And we know that it does not lead to peace, it does not lead to joy. It just leads to more wanting. But that doesn't mean that we have to now play out the victim of our circumstance. It doesn't mean that we don't have any power over how we experience our present moment. In fact, that's the key to unlocking our innate joy, is figuring out how these echoes that we keep reinforcing and writing into a future that then creates our present moment, how is that process working and how is it impacting our awareness? How is it creating the states of clinging that cause us to be trapped in the experience instead of simply being aware of the experience? Because no matter what is happening, there is this awareness of what is happening. And when we are fully immersed in awareness of what is happening, there's joy, there's peace. But then we fall into this witness state where we're witnessing it happening, but we're not the awareness itself. We're just watching it unfold, and then that becomes very judgy. And then we start to slip into wanting things to be different. Say, oh, this is uncomfortable, I want it like that. And now, boom, we're back in the experience. Having the experience. But if we can, once again, connect with just pure awareness, we can start to see these patterns, these echoes that are emanating in our life and in our world. And then we can actually consciously decide which ones to amplify and which ones to let fade. And because they're echoes, it doesn't mean that they instantly go away. There'll be a pattern, there'll be a feeling, a thought that keeps hammering away in our mind, keeps pulling at our attention. But through our practice of mindfulness, we can choose to not follow it. We can choose to not amplify it through the practice of placing our attention somewhere intentionally. We can focus on enlightenment, we can focus on Buddha. That's why my teacher said he had tankas all over his house, because no matter what was going on, those tankas would remind him of what he truly was. Just pure light. Pull him back into enlightened consciousness. And we can make this its own echo. Its own, so we can actually use this pattern, this repeating nature, to bring us back home. But even then, we want to be aware of what's happening, because then we could just create our own little bubble and forget and become enmeshed in the experience of being a quote-unquote spiritual person. And just forget that we are actually awareness. So, any questions? Does it spark any thoughts? How can I help? How are you seeing that play out in your life?
How do I see that playing out in my life?
Yeah. These echoes, present, becoming past, becoming future.
What came to mind when you were discussing that is, I guess, two echoes of love that came up today while I was in the kitchen preparing food and stuff like that. One was a dog, and the other one was a past relationship. And then I don't know, I don't know if it's the same thing, but I just chose not to emotionally go down that road, because it doesn't lead to joy or happiness. It just leads to sorrow. So yeah.
Well, because you're not focusing on the actual love at that point. You're focusing on the lack of the
Right.
the loss.
The loss, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing with love. We get hung up on the loss, on the not having it anymore, and that's the grasping, that's the clinging.
Mm-hmm.
But love is amazing, that we can embrace that feeling, that echo of, oh, I really love that puppy, I really love that dog, and then move that love into something that's here now. So we can stay with that feeling of love and openness and caring. And that can lead us to great gratitude for the opportunity to have loved.
Yep.
So that's just a good example of how we can not get caught in the clinging. But it's a tough pattern, because most people, that's exactly what they do. Like you said, we feel the loss and the grief, and then we just echo that, and we spin out. But if we can stay with the actual love, then
without following a linear timeline.
yeah, without following the linear timeline, with staying in this present moment and asking ourselves, well, what do I love right now? I say, oh, I love my tree that I have. I love my plants. I love the city. I love the fact that I have a body and get to experience life, even though my body might not do everything that I want it to do in the way I want it to do. Maybe it has different issues, but we can still take that stream of love and put it into the present moment. And that completely changes everything. Suddenly we're not filtering our mind based on grief and loss. Now we're filtering it based on love and openness and gratitude and appreciation.
That's where I went with it. Yeah, gratitude. And then I decided I was going to take a walk. I had to go run errands. It's like a 20-minute walk. I decided I was going to walk instead of taking the bus or the train.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could, look at the colors of the trees and stuff like that. And right now, most of the trees are down. The leaves are down. The leaves are still on the ground, so they're still colorful and stuff like that.
Oh, beautiful. Very cool. So yeah, we have so many opportunities with these echoes that come through if we can recognize that they're just echoes. But sometimes they feel so real, so heavy, so immediate. Like the storyline of, well, it's always been this way. But we can stop for a minute and question that and say, has it really been this way always? Or am I just seeing it this way right now? And if I really watch it, where does this echo lead to if I reinforce it? Where did it arise from? And is it something I want to continue? They say time is like a river, and these echoes are like little offshoots from the river, creating little streams that we can keep following, keep entrenching, or we can let it dry up, develop new patterns.